What's going down, D-Gens? We are finally here at the conference championship game, or games. The last week was decent. We went 2-1. Not great, but I'll take a winning week any week. So let's just move on from that. Let's go ahead and build on it. Hopefully we can get a sweep this week, which would really round out the season pretty well. If you're looking at your screen right now, this is the Twitter to be following, the Twitter account. It is at AG_sports21. Like I've said before, please give us a follow. The main reason for this is not because I'm trying to build this huge following or trend or anything like that, but if you want to take a look at the plays that I'm giving, whether you want to jump on them, you want to fade them, you want to cuss me out, say I'm stupid, say I'm handsome, say whatever, this is the place to do it. It's probably where I'm most active at. And sometimes, guys, unfortunately, especially because it's a pretty limited crew here, right? It can be a little hard to get the videos out as early as I would like to, if at all, unfortunately. But with Twitter, I can throw the plays out there, get them out as soon as I can, beat the line moves, all that kind of stuff. And if you're there watching, if you put the notifications on, you'll be able to go ahead and switch it out and get your play as soon as possible. So here's the plays because they're right in front of you. We got Ravens -3. That's essentially my one play for the week as far as just straight, sides. A teaser is going to be the Chiefs +9.5, which is obviously the other side of that. There's a lock for you by Alex Caruso if you want to take advantage of that for NBA tonight. But the teaser on my end is the Chiefs +9.5, the 49ers down to -1. The props, and this is a little bit different because this is something that we can focus on more in the postseason since there are not as many games. The props are going to be Kelce over 62.5 receiving yards, Laporte over 47.5 receiving yards, and Purdy over 20.5 completions for the game. There's reasoning behind all of this, so let's go ahead and get into it. As far as the Ravens, which again is the first pick, this is going to be the Ravens as well as the Chiefs teaser leg. So the last 3 years in this conference championship game, these are the numbers that you're looking at as far as like the total score, the difference in totals, and all that kind of stuff. So of the 6 games we've had in these conference championships over the last 3 years, only one of them has been decided by more than a touchdown. And that was last year's 49ers-Eagles game, which notoriously became famous because Brock Purdy got hurt. And there was really not a true backup because he was already their third-string backup quarterback. So they get their ass handed to them by the Eagles 31-7. That's the one outlier here, and with a very clear reason for the outlier as far as huge spreads, huge differentials, 24 points. The other 5 games that have taken place over the last 3 years were decided by 3 points, 3 points, 3 points, 5 points, and 6 points. So, as you could tell, we should expect these games to kind of come down to the wire, to be pretty close. Obviously, none of these teams are bad right at this point. They're all pretty good. They're all here for a reason. So, the moral of this is that it should be a pretty close game on both sides. And you can tell by the spreads. One's 3.5, one's 6.5 to 7, depending on your book. So we're really not expecting much in the way of like huge blowouts here. For that reason, I teased the Chiefs. I do strongly believe that the Ravens win this game. But as far as the Chiefs are concerned, I don't think that they get blown out. I think that the numbers should probably be about 6.5 or 7. Or at least as far as like the final, what the actual score is going to be, I predict the Ravens to win by 7. This is just a straight numbers play as far as the teaser is concerned. So give me them up, the Chiefs, that is, up to 9.5, getting past a 1-score game. Because even if it is at any point in the game, the Ravens up by 14, the Ravens up by 10, the Ravens up by 17 even, I do strongly believe that the Chiefs find a way to come back late in the game, get the backdoor cover, and at least make it interesting and kind of coming down to the wire. So that's the reason for that particular side of the teaser play. As far as the over-unders, guys, if anybody's looking at that, the Chiefs-Ravens games, I have it pretty much projected for right at about 44 points, one way or the other. So there's not really a lot of value on that one. As far as the Lions, 49ers game, that one, the total is at 51. I have it projected for about 50, but to be honest with you, I'm really leaning under in that one. I do think both of these teams have pretty solid run defenses, and while the Lions have been really susceptible to quarterbacks and tight ends, I don't think that's always the most efficient way for the 49ers to score, and for whatever reason, you don't see them take advantage of George Kittle nearly as much as they should. So if you're looking to play a total, I may want to look towards that under on the 49ers-Lions game. The numbers that you're seeing here in front of you, though, other than back in 2020 when really nobody wanted to throw any flags at all because of COVID, usually these scores are pretty low scoring. We have 38, 43, 37, and 51 total points in the last 2 years. And again, that 51 is obviously that was a Chiefs game. It was I believe that was the Chiefs-Bengals game, if I remember correctly. But either way, we don't see too many super high-scoring games in this particular round. But let's move on from that to just DVOA grading, all that kind of stuff. So of the 4 teams that are left, 2 of them are purple teams, meaning that I've projected them very accurately for 3+ weeks. And this goes even back into the regular season. In the case of the Ravens, it's actually probably closer to about 6 or 7 weeks that I've been very, very accurate with predicting their scores. The Chiefs, I believe it's at 4 weeks total. But the Chiefs, I have consistently been, within one standard deviation of the score. Now, the Ravens tend to actually go above my expectation, whereas the Chiefs are pretty much, in the median, right? Like, they're right on where they should be. The Ravens almost always go above the expectation, so they're in the standard deviation, but it's to the top end. As far as the Lions are concerned, I have gotten them right both weeks so far in the playoffs. That's why they're listed in pink. The 49ers, earlier in the season, the 49ers were a purple team. I had gotten them right for, I want to say, the first 6 out of 10 weeks or something like that. But recently, they have been just kind of underperforming, and I am consistently over-expecting from them. Some of that is maybe injuries. Some of that is other people playing them differently. But some of it could be just, like this past week, they're knocking off Russ for a half. Whatever the case is, they have not been playing up to expectation. So keep that in mind, because the projected scores here, and this is just very raw. This is not like the final number on anything, but just strictly off of DVOA, should be about 36 points for the Niners and 26 for the Lions. Now, let's bring that down a little bit for the Niners, because like I just said, they've been underperforming. Let's say it's about 30. Let's give or take a touchdown, as well as a little bit more, because the Lions defense is, it's not easy to move the ball on the Lions, especially when you're relying on a ground game that has been pretty tough against the Lions. So I'd really knock that down to about 27. The Lions, we can knock theirs down a little bit as well, just because, again, 49ers defense is very solid. They don't really give up a whole lot to any position in particular, other than the tight end. So Sam Laporte is going to need to carry a lot of weight in this Lions game. So let's just say that they probably score around 20 or so, 20 to 21, 22. But really, I guess 23 is a more relevant number. But either way, I'm predicting this one really to be close to about 24, 27, 24, 23, something around those numbers, which is why I'm leaning to the under in that one. Also, why I am giving the 49ers basically the teaser, right? We're trying to get them down to 1. We want to get them to just get the win in this game. And it's very important, because with this team underperforming, I could really see this game coming down to, a field goal, right? Or a one point game. That's why it's so important that we get to 6.5 and tease that down to a half point, or get it to 7, tease it down to 1, whatever. As long as you can get it down to at least the 1 to have that kind of cushion. Now, that being said, one thing that I have been keeping up with all year is this playoff predictor. And this is basically a cumulative score. This is going to be your margin of victory, your strength of schedule, how many wins do your opponents have, right? So are you beating a bunch of cupcakes? And not just that. That's kind of wrapped into strength of schedule, but also the teams that you actually beat in your schedule. Did you beat just the easy teams? Did you beat some of the hard teams? Kind of back and forth. So that takes all of this into account, and it does have the Ravens listed as number 1, 49ers at number 2, Chiefs at 3, Lions at 4. Now, kind of condensing these numbers down to every 10 points being 1 point of spread, we get a rough estimate on what the spread should be. The 49ers -6 is what this number points out, which again is just a little bit under what the actual line is. So you take the teaser to move that down to 1. As you probably know, these are going to be some of the sharper lines for the season because there's only so many games, and we have as big of a data set as we're going to have for the most part on all of these teams. So the lines are going to be very, very sharp. When the lines are super sharp is the best time to tease it because you're going to get the most out of the teaser. You're going to get the most value. If you think the line is exactly right, exactly where it should be, moving it down almost a touchdown is obviously going to be huge in your favor. As far as the Ravens are concerned, this is a little bit different because this particular algorithm or method says that the Ravens should be favored by 13 points, which obviously no one in their right mind is laying 13 against the Chiefs, but that's what this one says. Some of that is because of strength of schedule. The Chiefs had the 28th, ranked schedule, meaning they had the 28th or the fourth hardest schedule in the NFL, whereas the Ravens were number 17, so they're kind of middle of the road. And that is a reason why a lot of the numbers look really, really good for the Ravens and maybe not so great for the Chiefs. One thing that I thought really did stand out, though, is that the 49ers and the Ravens both have less one-score games than the Chiefs and the Lions. Typically, one-score games, yes, it's good to win them, obviously, because that's how you rack up a lot of wins and you get stats and all that kind of stuff. But the fact that you are in more and more one-score games is not good. It has a negative correlation on your wins. The more one-score wins you have, the more tight games you have, the more you increase your odds for something to go wrong. So it's not always good to have a whole bunch of one-score wins. Actually, it's not good to have a whole bunch of one-score wins. And we saw that with the Vikings. Not this year, last year when they had like 13 wins and they were all one-score wins. And then we saw them kind of flatten that out this week or this year. Again, keep that in mind because that is going to come into the handicap. So all of this data is just to show you as far as why we are taking the Ravens -3. We have a couple of factors here pointing towards a Ravens win, whether it's DVOA scoring, the cumulative playoff method, which is, like I said, margin of victory and all that kind of stuff. Both of these factors are pointing towards a Ravens win. Also the one-score game. We have 3 different factors that are pointing us towards the Ravens winning. And then lastly, I would say health issues. Health has been really big in this playoffs. Dr. Chow has been releasing his 6 score, and I believe he's 2-0 or 3-0 in the playoffs going off of just strictly health issues. And that is one thing that has not been brought up too much with the Chiefs. They played the Dolphins, who were completely banged up and hurt and even just limping into the playoffs in round 1, and the Chiefs win that game. They play the Bills in round 2. The Bills, week 1, had their own injuries, their own setbacks, playing with a lot of just banged-up pieces, especially in their linebacker core, and the Chiefs win that game. Both of those games, the Chiefs had an injury advantage, as well as a rest advantage on the Bills. Now, when it comes to this week, this is the first week that they are not going to play with the injury or rest advantage against the Ravens. The Ravens don't really have too many injuries, especially if Mark Andrews is back and ready to go for this game. Marlon Humphrey is the only one who may still be out for this game, whereas the Chiefs, they may have everybody playing, but these guys are not 100%. If Tooney does play, he's playing with the pec strain on the right side. That's going to be tough, and he's going up against Matabuke, and that guy is he's a handful, even if you're 100% healthy. So I can't imagine trying to block him while you're nursing a pec strain. And if they do kind of shoot him up to get rid of some of that pain, I think you're going to see a big difference in the second half because those shots almost always start off really, really good, and the guy's playing through no pain in the first half, and that shot starts to wear off by the time we get to the third and fourth quarter, and that's when you get down to crunch time, and that's when you may have some issues if you see Tooney playing out there. Also, though, you have Willie Gay banged up with the neck injury. He says he's going to go. The team seems to sound like he's going to go, but he's nursing that injury, and that's an issue because if he were to tweak that thing, he gets hurt wrong, and he's the spy for Lamar Jackson. the backup, as good as he may be, is going to definitely be a step down. And Lamar Jackson, you cannot afford to let that guy run loose on your defense. So, again, just everything is pointing the Ravens' direction. The only thing on the Chiefs here is that the referee that they have, and Warren Sharp has been all over this, but he is the most winning ref when it comes to the away teams. So his record against the home team is something like 17-42, meaning that the home team only won 17 games out of like 59 possible games. He throws the holding flags specifically, like 64% of the time on the offense, on the home offense it is. So just a referee that tends to favor the away team. Now, whether the NFL did that on purpose or not, that's a whole other conspiracy theory, but that is the one edge that I would give the Chiefs. So if you see this game come down to flags and the Ravens getting penalized a lot and giving up a lot of yards on flags, that could be a difference maker. But for the most part, everything else is pointing the Ravens. So give me the Ravens -3, buy it down to 3. Don't play the damn 3.5. Buy it down to 3. Take the Chiefs on the teaser, and then the 49ers, we're going to tease them against the Lions down to 1. Again, it's the same reason I was just showing you everything here, DVOA, playoffs, they all point to this being a 49ers win as a better team, and in my opinion, the better coach. The coaching grades and all point towards Shanahan. I think even without grades and analytics, most of us can kind of see that Shanahan is a much better coach than the Lions. Also, then this is more of like it's harder to quantify, right? But it's just a motivational angle. The 49ers got to this exact same spot last year, and they were playing like they needed to win, and then they lose Brock Purdy, and the game just goes to shit. And a lot of those players felt like they got robbed because they did not have a chance to even try to win that game without a quarterback. So this year, it looks like a lot of these guys are playing for revenge. I mean, they're playing, on a mission to at least get to the Super Bowl. Reminds me of, if you were not around to watch this, the Heat-Spurs finals, where the Heat win because Duncan doesn't get a rebound. He wasn't even in to get the rebound. They win a Game 6, and then they go on to win Game 7. And the Spurs were pissed that next year, and you could tell they were just on a mission to win that championship, and they ran through the entire playoffs, and then they met the Heat again and whipped their ass. I want to say like 4-1 in the finals. And I do see something similar with the 49ers. I think those guys are there for a reason. They are there to prove a point. They're there to get their redemption back and say, look, we have a quarterback now. We can get a win. We can get to the Super Bowl the way we should have last year. So that motivational angle does also point in the favor of the 49ers. They're playing outside, Jared Goff outside. Obviously, I wouldn't want to do that. One thing I will say, and I'll end with this as far as the Lions-49ers game, I cannot imagine putting a lot of money on the line on Jared Goff and it coming down to crunch time and you needing to root for and rely on Jared Goff outside. I can't do it. I did it last week because I had some money on the Lions just on my own. And obviously that hit. But I was there like kicking myself in the ass because I was like, I cannot believe I have money riding on Jared Goff. I'm not going to do that. Jared Goff and Purdy probably pretty equal. Again, I give the nod to Shanahan as far as coaching is concerned, and I don't think it's a slight nod either. This is pretty adamant that Shanahan is better than Dan Campbell as far as coaching is concerned. But again, either way, that's all just to say 49ers, get them down to 1, get them down to just get the W. So that takes care of those. As far as the props are concerned, this is the fantasy index is showing where teams are good and bad against certain players. As far as the 49ers are concerned, if you look at row 30 and follow that across to that 1.7, that means that tight ends are going to get 1.7 more points fantasy-wise than they average, right? So if they're averaging, let's say, 9 points fantasy when they play the 49ers, they should get 10.7 points in fantasy, which, what does that come out to, right? And this is not PPR, it's standard scoring. It comes out to about another 17 yards, right? So they should be a little bit above their average. which is why we are going to go with Sam Laporta to get over his yardage receptions or over his yardage for next week. Same thing when it comes to Detroit. Detroit's actually very weak against the quarterbacks. Quarterback has just run all over Detroit. They've had their way with the secondary for the Lions pretty much week in and week out, and you saw it even last week with the Packers, and that's why we are going to take Brock Purdy over 20.5 receptions. Brock Purdy, when he plays similar teams, meaning teams that give up similar advantages to the quarterback, he does get between 21 to 23 completions per game. And in this one, a game where we're expecting it to be tight, expecting it to come down to the wire, a very clear advantage in the secondary there as far as the 49ers being able to take advantage of the Lions secondary. I'm going to go with Kyle Shanahan and him acknowledging that they're going to probably stop the run game. The Lions have a great run-stopping defense, and you even see that on this screen here, the minus 1.6 for running backs going up against the Lions. They're going to want to pass. They're going to have a great receiver option, at least with Brandon Ayuk as well as George Kittle when they put him in the slot or when they use him as a tight end, either way. So I'm going to go ahead and say Brock Purdy gets over 20.5 completions. Lastly, we did have Travis Kelce, and Travis Kelce playing against the Ravens. That is actually the only weak spot for the Ravens. If you look across the row 4 with Baltimore, they're good against every single position except for tight ends. So I do expect for Kansas City to focus on the tight ends position. Obviously, Kelce is one of their best players either way, so they're probably going to go that way anyways, but this just kind of makes them lean even more in that direction. So give me Kelce over his 62.5 receiving yards prop. Those are the picks, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for giving me some of your time today. Good luck this weekend. Let's all have fun with the conference championships. We'll come back with some more props and a play for the Super Bowl after this week. Y'all have a good day. Thanks again.